Team Fortress 2 is the best game ever made. At least in my opinion. Now, I recognize that is quite the bold claim to make, especially given that tour de forces such as Over the Hedge for PlayStation 2 exist, but no other game has been able to sink its teeth into my neck like TF2 has. The characters, the gameplay, the cinematics, the trading, the community, the art style, the videos, there's a lot to love when it comes to this masterpiece. It's safe to say that TF2 holds a really important place in my heart, which is why the last few years have been pretty tough to watch, as this game has had quite the fall from grace. If you aren't an active TF2 player, the main thing you have probably heard about the game over the past 2 years is the fact they added man vs machine to every Valve server, except not the fun kind where you win cool loot with your friends.
Oh my fucking god.
More the spamming hate speech and insta-killing players while spinning kind, which are unfortunately less fun to deal with. But hey, this is Valve, the billion-dollar software company we are talking about here. I am sure they provided a speedy fix to this problem with all the resources and talented developers that they had at their disposal. What? No, they've got Steam Decks that Gabe Newell needs to personally deliver to socially anxious customers. Don't be silly.
What's with the camera crew?
So yeah, the bots are still around and more prevalent than ever, there hasn't been any meaningful content updates to the game in over 1600 days, and MatPat is yet to make a response video to the numerous debunkings of his infamous Pyrogender video from 2013. So yeah, it's no secret TF2 is struggling at the moment, and it has been for a while now. And that's not to say that the game is dead, because it isn't. It's far from it actually. I don't want to stoke the flames of that whole doomer content creator getting pessimistic about the future of TF2 archetype, because the game has so much life left in it, and it will take a whole lot more than what is currently going on to kill the TF2 community's undying dedication. But regardless of that, I still find myself asking, how did we actually end up here? Why is Valve neglecting one of its most successful franchises when it still has one of the largest player bases out of any game on Steam? Well, to answer that question and find out why the game has fallen from grace, we need to figure out how it climbed up there in the first place. The year is 1996. It's a pretty big one. The Nintendo 64 has just come out, Space Jam is in theaters, and most importantly, we managed to duplicate Dolly the Sheep. Now in the gamer realm, ID Software has managed to craft one of the first actual three-dimensional shooters, Quake. The game itself received a pretty astonishing level of critical acclaim. I mean, just look at that Metacritic score. We're edging on OK Computer levels there, and as a result, it attracted quite the community around it, especially when it came to the modding scene. Now to be honest, when I think of mods, my mind goes to some very dark places, but fortunately for us, the Quake community has actually put together some pretty damn good multiplayer mods that went on to become very popular. In fact, one mod had gained so much traction that it was being used on 50% of all servers at its peak. It changed the traditional free-for-all deathmatch which Quake's vanilla multiplayer was synonymous with, and instead established two teams, red and blue, with 9 different playable classes to choose from. Wait a minute, I've seen something like this before. What was the name of this mod again? Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Anyway, to cut a long story short, the developers behind this mod were snatched up by Valve in 1998 and were put to work on a sequel which is going to be called Team Fortress 2. Only this time, it was going to be made on Valve's Half-Life engine. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, the development process after this point is an absolute mess, because the game went through so many different iterations. It started off planned as this standalone sequel, then that got scrapped in favor of making a port for the original mod called Team Fortress Classic, which you may have heard of, and the game took a turn towards this more gritty and realistic type of shooter called Team Fortress 2 Brotherhood of Arms. Then there was absolute radio silence about the game's development from Valve until a leak showed this weird build called Team Fortress 2 Invasion with aliens, which was a complete turn from the realistic shooter thing they had going on. Oh god, it was just a big old mess. But after 6 years with no word from Valve, the 2006 EA Summer Showcase event rolled around.
Rawr, just me, heavy weapons, man.
Damn, dude, he's right behind you, No! Oh, boom. Headshot. This came out of seemingly nowhere and was a drastically different Team Fortress 2 to anything we had seen in the past. The part of this announcement which had so many people enticed about the game was the visual design, because there was a lot to love about this new cartoon aesthetic. You didn't need to be a genius to appreciate the attention to detail in this art style. It was something new, and it definitely wasn't conventional. There was a lot to look forward to, and just over a year after this official announcement, Team Fortress 2 was available to play. It shipped as a part of a bundle called the Orange Box, which for $30 included not only TF2, but Portal and Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 Episode 1, and Half-Life 2 Episode 2 as well. You could buy it as a standalone game for $20, but you'd be a fool not to pick it up alongside all of those other lovely Valve titles. Like its predecessor Quake, TF2 was released to immense critical acclaim. The only games which outperformed it on Metacritic in 2007 was BioShock, which, fair enough, that's a baller-ass game, and the Orange Box. You know, the bundle which TF2 was a part of. Also, on a quick side note, yes, I know critic opinions aren't gospel, but I do think they're a good starting point to gauge the quality of a game initially. Plus, we all know there is only one critic who truly matters anyway.
Shit!
Now, I wasn't there on the ground to experience the launch of TF2 myself in 2007, but judging by all the archived reviews and posts about the game, it left quite the first impression. People were obsessed with the amount of style and personality that Valve had managed to cram into just one game, especially when you compare this final build with its cartoony visuals and lovable cast of characters to the earlier iterations, which were much more gritty and realistic in their aesthetic. Like, look, I'm gonna be totally honest with you, I don't think the spy from the 1998 version of TF2 would have a voice line about banging the scout's mother after dominating him in game. It wouldn't happen.
Well, off to visit your mother.
There was actually this one review from 2007 which I found particularly interesting, and it said, "This game makes me laugh even when I'm losing. An impressive feat from the Game Zone." This genuinely holds true 15 years on, and it's something I can't really say for any other games I play these days. TF2 represented pure fun in these early stages, and it truly seemed to be the quintessential, casual, multiplayer gaming experience. Valve had found the winning formula, and winning is exactly what it went on to do. Regular content updates became the norm, massive events like Sniper vs. Spy and War were huge successes, the game was made available for Mac, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, an entire virtual economy was constructed through the addition of cosmetics, the lore of the game was being treated with so much love, and on top of everything, the game went free to play in June of 2011. But look, I don't actually want to dwell too much on this period as good as it may have been, because I want to guide you through my own personal experience of Team Fortress 2 and what my early days looked like. It was one of my close friends who actually first introduced me to Team Fortress 2 when I went over to his house one day, where we played on one of those horrid instant respawn achievement trade idle servers, but I was pretty much hooked instantly. Once I got home from his house, I lugged my fat ass straight to our shitty family computer, and on the 9th of January 2014, 4 days before my 12th birthday, I created an account on Steam and downloaded Team Fortress 2. Now, admittedly, I was a little late to the party, and to be honest with you, I hadn't even really heard of TF2 before, but god, was this game about to utterly consume me. I was addicted to just about everything TF2 had to offer. Trading, the communities, the videos, and of course the gameplay itself. I even remember using this dodgy video downloader app on my iPod 4 so that I could rewatch an intellectual documentary on Valve servers by Lazy Purple on the train ride to and from school. And I mean, damn, in retrospect, what a time to be playing TF2. I know I missed out on the hype around things like Man vs. Machine in 2012 and didn't experience the entirety of TF2's golden era, but having Love and War be the first major content update that I got to experience was something truly special. We got the amazing cinematic that was Expiration Date, 5 new weapons which were all an absolute blast, a bunch of new cosmetics, and most importantly, the Conga. If you played TF2 during this time, you will know that for a period of like 2 weeks, all anyone did was Conga around the battlefield. The aura around TF2 at this stage is something I truly feel so nostalgic towards, because it was genuinely such a good time to be playing the game, as Valve was putting so much love and care into these content updates. And do you want to know one of the massive benefits there is to having an actively updated game? You get a community full of talented creators doing what they do best. The YouTube scene especially flourished during this time. I mean, do I even need to mention names like Germa, Star, Funk, Muselk, Saltyfish, Uncle Dane, and Lazy Purple? I mean, these guys and the videos they made during TF2's prime is probably half the reason I'm here talking to you now, as they planted the seed in my mind that making videos was something I actually wanted to pursue in the future. Now, this honeymoon phase of TF2 continued on for a while longer, but unfortunately, there was an update just around the corner which was going to change the game's trajectory. Meet Your Match was probably one of the most hyped updates to come out, because the promise of a competitive matchmaking system had a lot of people really excited. After around 2 years of waiting, the update finally dropped in July of 2016, but it was underwhelming to say the least. In fact, it was an outright mess. Competitive queues took hours to find a game, one player abandoning would self-destruct the lobby entirely, the map pool was horrific, there were no weapon restrictions, there were no incentives to actually play competitive, and it went on and on and on. It had also become clear that Valve had some serious communication and transparency issues, as besides top-tier competitive players and the occasional content creator who were invited to Valve's headquarters to discuss how the game should be balanced and how competitive should be implemented, there was radio silence, and it was really starting to hurt the game. There also seemed to be this growing sentiment that Valve was starting to become detached from TF2 and not really caring as much about it as they used to. I mean, Star put it best when he said,
"I don't think anyone who works on TF2 actually plays this game."
There was a growing disconnect, and unfortunately that was just going to be TF2's future reality. The last major update TF2 has received was in October 2017 with Jungle Inferno. Now I know a lot of people had issues with this update, but honestly I think it was pretty good. Maybe that was just because we were desperate for content at that point, but I enjoyed most of the rebalances along with the new items and the contract system that was introduced. I mean, it wasn't anything crazy, don't get me wrong, but it was nice, and it kind of felt like there was at least some level of care and love coming through on Valve's part. And hey, even if it wasn't crazy good, we had that heavy update to look forward to, which is just going to be around the corner. It's just going to be around the corner. And here we are. At the time of writing, it has been 1670 days since the last major update. Personally, I am content with the fact that TF2 may never receive another content update. But what is inexcusable from Valve is their failure to achieve even a baseline level of maintenance with the game as it currently sits. Bots have been an issue for over 2 years now, and besides some half-assed band-aid fixes which ended up harming new players by limiting their ability to communicate in-game, we've got a nothing. I get dozens and dozens of comments on my videos of people who are genuinely surprised that I'm even able to load into a game of casual without having it immediately overrun by bots. I'm lucky I live in Australia, which seems to be less impacted by the bot crisis relative to other regions, but the current state of Valve's official matchmaking is near unplayable for some people. Once a series of bots begin infecting a lowly populated server and joining en masse, there really isn't much you can do besides pray that you are able to kick them one by one before they form a majority and start booting real players out of the game. Most of the time people don't even bother with the hassle, and when they see all the bots join, they roll a dice and hope the next server they join is fine, or seek refuge in a community server like Uncletopia, which have measures in place to prevent bots from ruining everyone's experience. I get that bots are a complicated issue to deal with, and my peanut gamer brain can't even begin to comprehend how challenging it is to prevent bots from a developer's standpoint, but it has been an issue for over 2 years now, and it still feels like we have gone nowhere. And look, I need to correct myself about something I said earlier. There actually have been numerous updates since Jungle Inferno in 2017. I was lying. We've had classics like the 2019 Winter update, which introduced the 2019 Winter cosmetic case. That was a goodie. Oh, what about Scream Fortress 2020? That was a throwback to the good old days where we got another cosmetic case. That was good. Fuck, don't even get me started on the Summer 2021 update where we got the Summer 2021 cosmetic case. That'll go down with updates like Man vs. Machine and Gunmetal. I'm sure of it. So whilst TF2 has been struggling with the bot crisis, Valve has still been milking TF2 for all it's worth by adding new hats, new unusual effects, and new taunts, which is exactly what we need right now. And don't get confused here. It's not like Valve themselves are producing the content for the game. No. They just yoink stuff off the workshop to make a quick buck off the back of talented creators within the community. But somehow, in spite of all of this neglect and poor treatment from Valve, the TF2 player base has only grown. Let me repeat that. A game nearing 5 years without any meaningful content has managed to grow its player base. TF2 has more current players on Steam than games like Destiny 2 and Rust, which both receive consistent updates from its developers. That is a testament to both the quality of this game and the quality of the community which supports it. And look, I get a lot of people refute TF2's player statistics and think it's all bots, idle players and training accounts, which I am sure makes up a small portion of the stats, but you know what? For argument's sake, let's just say it's half. 50% of TF2's players aren't actually playing the game. That would put TF2 on the same level as games like Risk of Rain 2, Dead by Daylight, and Payday 2. All fantastic games which receive a lot of love and care from their developers. My point is, no game with the amount of popularity of TF2 deserves to be treated the way it currently is. I do understand that Valve has shifted its focus in recent years, as it has become more apparent that they are much more interested in being at the forefront of technology like virtual reality, as well as things like Steam Deck. I can't really fault them for moving in this direction, as it's probably where they see the future of the gaming industry and they want to be the trailblazers. But God, leaving TF2 in the dust as they pursue these other areas is tragic, especially given how dedicated the community behind this game is. It's obvious that Valve doesn't need TF2 anymore. I mean, through Steam alone, Valve generates billions of dollars, meaning there's no sense of urgency to get TF2 up and running again. I mean, they are a private company after all, and if it is their bottom line that they are most concerned about, they might actually be treating TF2 in the right way from a business perspective. Alright, it's time for me to get get to the crux of this video because there is one thought I have had that keeps nagging away at me, and it's a pretty simple one, but it's what prompted me to make this video. What if TF2 was still being updated? What more could the game have become if Valve showed it more attention? It's a hard question to answer. You might expect it to be inevitable that the game would have grown even more, but if Valve kept shoving out these half-baked updates like Meet Your Match, maybe the game would have fallen off entirely. Maybe the fact Valve has shown no support is what has kept this game alive all this time. I know that sounds like a paradox, but maybe it is the lack of attention which has ultimately bolstered this community and made it more resilient. Perhaps this dark period in TF2's life cycle has actually been valuable. You never truly know what you have until it's gone, so I think if TF2 were to receive attention in the future, it would be appreciated by the community a lot more than it was in the past. But then on the flip side of this, what if high quality updates could have transformed this game back into a mainstream hit? Maybe it could have managed to claw back some veteran players and content creators to breathe even more life into the game. It's kind of wild to think about it, but what if there was a world where TF2 was competing with stuff like League of Legends and Fortnite? More people would mean more content creators, more artwork, more videos, more modders, more mappers, more everything. Maybe it would have led to this insane positive feedback loop where TF2 became an absolute behemoth in the gaming industry. I know that may seem far-fetched, but I definitely lean on the more optimistic side here, and I can still genuinely see TF2 making a resurgence if Valve give it more love. This game does still have so much untapped potential, and the fact it may go without ever being fully realized does make me sad. But look, I'm just a deranged video man dwelling on the past and giving you my thoughts about a game that means so much to me. So in an attempt to tie this all together, I want to finish on a positive note. Hashtag save TF2. Myself and a bunch of other creators are today pushing this hashtag as a sort of campaign because we want to see action on the bot problem which has plagued this game for so long. So many people love this game and we just can't bear to see it crumble like this. So if you also want to help get this trending, please do everything in your power to get the word out. Tweet about it, let game journalists know, share any videos like this one, or even make one yourself. This game has been suffering for too long and it's time we see some change. Ultimately, this game's lifespan is dependent on the community which keeps it afloat. If we want TF2 to have a long and prosperous future, then we have to do our part. If you have a favorite server you enjoy playing on, consider donating to it. If there's a sub community you're actively involved in, make sure you do your best to keep it prospering. If you have a cool idea or any questions, make sure to share with r/TF2 or any other forum. Or hey, if there's a content creator you like, maybe consider liking their video. You could leave a comment, maybe join their Discord and support them on Patreon. What do you think of that, huh? I know this game means a lot to so many different people, and seeing it in its current state can be a little depressing, but I implore you to stay optimistic and support this game in whatever way you can. And please, please get MatPat to do a redux of his pyrogender theory. The people need to know.